I was 24.
And I was 20.
Okay. Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, we couldn't move quite that fast because when I said it, I was 12.
Yeah.
So we couldn't move that quite that fast. And then
we are related in this instance. Now, my uncle was the father figure in my life, used to tell me, if you want a ripe apple, you get them off the top of the tree. So we want to get ripe apples early. Now, his following line probably isn't great for a Bible, for a
I want it all.
Chat, but what he would say is, because once they hit the ground, too many worms have been through them, boy. So you want a ripe apple, get them at the top of the tree. Your apple wasn't even an apple yet. So it was just a seed.
There's nothing there worth fighting for. I just need to know if one thing is true. Do you still love me like you used to do? What if they alright? Baby, can we still shine? Tell me that we'll be fine. Are we still alive?
Welcome back to another episode of How Love Can Last Forever After All. This week we're going to have Brent and Jacquie on the episode, and we're going to find out what it looks like to be loved inside and out. So excited to see what this couple is going to share with you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Once again, this is How Love Can Last Forever After All, and I'm your host, Pastor CalCope. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together. We thank you for what you're doing in the lives of married folks. We pray, God, that you would allow this interview to be a time that would not be just a blessing to those who are in this interview now, but to those who will hear it for years to come. We thank you for how you have blessed us to be closer to you and closer to each other. And God, we just ask that people see your light as we share our life experience with others. We ask these things in Jesus' name. And everybody say it.
Amen.
Amen. All right. So let's start real nice and simple. Tell us a little bit about how you guys met.
How do we meet? The true story.
Are you going to tell the true story?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to tell the true story. At church, and I was in one pew praying for my wife, and she was in another pew praying for her husband, and then the Lord lit up the stick, and then we met. That's not really how we met, though. We met at a club at an Ebony Fashion Fair after show.
Party. Yeah.
After party.
Yeah.
Yes.
At the time, I was modeling with Ebony Fashion Fair, and
I was playing with the Patriots at the time, and we had just flown back from Houston. We had just played the Oilers, October 8th, 1988.
Yeah, look at here. I like it. See, I might get a little messy here. So you and the fellas went to an Ebony Fashion Fair model. Is that what I understand, Brent?
No, we went to the after party.
To the after party.
Yeah, in the VIP section.
In the VIP section.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was it. That's where we met. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was the after party. I actually didn't meet him until the end of the night.
Right.
And God certainly was protecting me because he was driving us home, and I had no idea who he was.
Just got in the car with a stranger.
I just got in the car with a stranger. I would never want that for my daughter, but got in the car and headed on. They took us back to our hotel.
Then we tried. Then I reconnected with her roommate in December.
As God would have it, my roommate happened to be from Boston, and we were on break for our Christmas break, and I went back home to Buffalo, and he was here, and he ran into my roommate. Just so happened to run into her.
And I asked her to connect me with Jacquie, and she said she would not give me her number, but she would give Jacquie my number. And so Jacquie called me, and I set her up. I had a gospel music. You know, back in the day when you used to have the prelude into your voice before it comes on.
Yeah,
I had a little gospel music that led into, hey, this is Brent, I'm not here right now. And then finished with, God bless you. Had it locked up.
I was
Oh,
like,
you had a little game. You was better than me, man. I didn't have no game back then.
Yeah, I didn't have any game either, but I had enough. I had enough confidence to kind of set the mood.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, he can't be too bad if he has gospel music on his
Mhm.
answering machine. So I called him and he was here in Boston. I was back in Buffalo, and he said, "Can I take you to dinner?" And I said, "How is that going to work?" And he drove
I was
to
driving.
Buffalo.
I was driving back from Boston to Michigan, my hometown, and Buffalo is on the way. And December 23rd, we had our first date.
Yeah.
You know what? Brent, we might be cousins.
Yeah.
We no, for real though. Because you calling out dates like I call out dates.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we
really.
might,
Elise, are you better? I'm not good at dates. He remembers all dates.
I know, I put my head down because I'm like, you remember that date? Like,
Exactly.
So now I got to back up. We had this after party, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got a bunch of NFL football players there.
Mm-hmm.
Handful, yeah.
And we got a bunch of Ebony models there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was special about each of y'all? What happened?
Great question. So actually, I was connected or talking to another model.
Oh, I done started some trouble now. Okay.
No trouble.
I prayed, right? I prayed.
No trouble.
Okay, I prayed.
No trouble.
Okay.
You just alley-oop. This is the dunk right here. So I'm driving her back, and she's talking to the friend who convinced me to go there that night. I had planned. I was tired because we lost, mad, and didn't want to go out. He convinced me to go, and the two of them are in the back seat. We're driving to their hotel to drop them off, and I just remember her talking and not really paying as much attention to the person who was sitting next to me. And I ran through, as God protected us, I ran a red light looking at her through the rearview mirror. So that was how, so that was the connection.
Okay, wait, did you tell them that's why you ran a light, because you was looking at her?
No, they didn't even pay attention. I think, it was.
Okay, let me make sure I got this right. So there's 4 people in the car.
4 people.
And the 2 people, you were talking to the other guy, Jacquie, in the back seat?
Well, yeah, it was his friend that was in the car with us, but I wasn't interested in his friend, and I really wasn't thinking about him because he was talking to the other model. So I just was going for the ride. I wasn't even.
So Brent was talking to the other model.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all are kind of hooked up with the wrong people in this.
Exactly.
But Brett, you done got an inclination early. You done said, I know who I'm talking to, but I know who I want.
Correct.
I'm just trying to keep up. I'm trying to keep
up.
Up.
You got it.
Okay.
And I was going about my business like I had no idea.
Okay.
So I got out of the car and said goodbye and thought that was it.
I think the word talk about that a little bit, but we'll you okay. So now, Brett, I don't know if you done told her all of this story. So you done dropped her off at the hotel, right?
Yep.
That's what date?
That was October 8th.
So that's October. So we got October, November, December.
Correct.
Tell me about them 2 months before December got here. Anything of significance?
Absolutely. So in October or later in October of that month, I think you guys left Boston, and then the next week you were in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on Good Morning America, and they're doing the tour, and they're talking about, the show is going to be in New York City that week. And my roommate at the time walked in my room, and I had Good Morning America on before we went to work. And I said, I'm going to marry that girl.
Tell him.
Yeah, you guys could be related, because yeah.
What
When
what
you know, you know.
what made you say that, man?
Yeah.
It just caught me. I just told him. Now I'd never said that before, not in that manner. But I said I'm going to marry that girl, and we laughed and we went off to work. We went off to work, and then later in December, while they were on break, that's when I connect with her roommate. I tell her, how I wanted to connect with Jacquie. She connects me, and
we were engaged like
6 months later.
6 months later.
Wow. Okay.
So, because how old were y'all when all of this started?
I was 24.
And I was 20.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
See, we couldn't move quite that fast because when I said it, I was 12.
Yeah.
We couldn't move that quite that fast. And
But we are related in this instance. Now,
Go ahead.
my uncle, who's the father figure in my life, used to tell me, if you want a ripe apple, you get them off the top of the tree. So we want to get ripe apples early. Now, his following line probably isn't great for a Bible, for a
I want it all.
chat. But what he would say is, because once they hit the ground, too many worms have been through them, boy. So you want a ripe apple, get them at the top of the tree. Your apple wasn't even an apple yet. So it was just a seed.
Well, listen. If you ever hear me on YouTube and I use it, I don't give you credit, just
that's okay.
Shoot me a text. I'll send you a little something.
Send it to him. He'll take it. Yeah.
Feel good. Okay, so October you see her. Later in October you see her on TV and you say she's the one.
Yes.
Okay. Jacquie, when did the light come on for you?
It was not even, because I had no idea that he felt this way about me. Sure. And I didn't know that I would see him ever again. Yeah. It was just literally those few minutes for the car ride from the club to my hotel, and I had moved, the tour went on. I left the city and we continued on our tour, and I had no clue that he was interested in seeing me again. So it wasn't until our first date. Mm-hmm. Our first date was just like immediately it was a connection. We knew, both of us knew right away that there was something special. And then after that, I continued on the tour. I did the rest of the tour, and he would come out. And he was like part of the tour. He would follow the tour bus.
Look here. Yeah.
It happened to me.
I am smiling because I'd have been on the same
off season for football.
Yeah.
In today's terms, they would call it stalking. Yeah, we would have an issue. If somebody did that to my daughter, we'd have a problem.
Yeah, he was part of the tour.
I followed the tour, hung out with them.
He knew the guys on the tour, the stage managers, the male models. They would play basketball, on the off time. And he was like part of the tour. And he was in and out of the tour for
up until time to go to training. Well, no, up until May.
May is when the tour ended, and that's when he said, and otherwise we would be on the phone. If he wasn't on the tour, we would be on the phone. And this is before the days of cell phones. And we would literally be, call and collect on the phone saying, I would be calling from the hotel saying, collect call from Jacquie, and we'd be on the phone all night talking, and that's what started. That's where our relationship was rooted from is communication, because that's all we had. That's all we had was conversation and getting to know each other. So very early on, we felt like that was 6 months, but 6 months was just spent talking, a lot of talking. So, so by the time I finished on the road, he said, I want you to come to Boston. And I said, I'm not coming to Boston unless we're like, where was this going? Like, this is not, I'm not just uprooting my life. And he was like, and then
he didn't mean visit Boston. He wanted you to move to Boston.
He wanted me to move to Boston.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, I'm not just uprooting my life, what does this mean? And he said, oh no, I want you to marry me. So we got engaged, and then I moved to Boston.
My. So
Yeah.
so now, but you know how they always talk about how they say, women know as soon as they see the fella, right? You've heard that before,
Right,
right?
right.
Brett, how come that didn't happen with me? I knew before she knew. How that? Now, here's my question. Does any scriptures come to mind when you think about that concept? The fact that as a man, I knew, as a man, you knew, where society will tell you, the world will tell you, that you'll see all the time. Women will know within the first 10 minutes of meeting you whether or not they're interested in you.
Mm-hmm. The scripture that comes to mind is he who finds a wife. So in my mind, I grew up in a single parent home. So I didn't have like models of marriage, or I had some in the family that, we had a couple family members that had been married a while, but in my immediate home, that wasn't present. So that was something that I was looking for. I knew that I was never the kind of, athlete player that's just out and out, just out there. So that was never what I was looking for. I was looking for a wife, and finding a wife was, that was intentional. So I think that's what comes to mind when I think of that first, inkling that was who she was to me. Yeah.
So were you like a unicorn in the whole in the sports world?
I don't know about unicorn, because there's guys you can almost, and I've had this conversation with my oldest, Brennan, and he's been around the game for a long time, and he always says there's it's by position. There's some positions.
Oh my goodness.
To be a little more out there. And I'm not going to put anybody's business in the street, but you can figure out.
I can guess.
You can take a guess. Guys that would be inclined to get upset and take their uniform off and walk off the field, that position tends to be a little more wild. And the guys that cover the guy that would take his uniform off and walk off the field, also.
Yeah, but he was different, because just from my experience of being around athletes, as being in Buffalo and the Bills, and it's not it's a small town, and you run into a lot of those athletes, and I just found them to be very arrogant. I never in a million years would have guessed that I would have married a professional football player, just because of my run-ins with the people that I knew. I kind of categorized all professional athletes to be arrogant and jerky, and so I never would have guessed that. So when I heard the gospel music on his
was it commission or whinings? Was it commission or whinings?
It was probably Winans back then.
Yeah,
it might
I
have
think
been
it was
Winans.
Winans.
You know what? It might have been BB and CC. That first album was cute.
Yeah. It just set the tone.
It did. It set the tone, and I think it made me think, okay, well, this is interesting, because my roommate had said he was a nice guy, and she said, I think you should, I said, well, what do you think? And she said, no, I think he sounds like he's a nice guy. And so I gave it a chance, and then recognizing, that first date, I was just like, there is something very different about him. So I do think he was and is very unique. He wasn't the typical professional athlete that I was accustomed to meeting, over my time, meeting athletes along on the road and everything. It just, he was different. He was a gentleman. He was very, very, he listened to me. He was very interested in what I had to say, or my thoughts and opinions. And that was just really special. And it just really drew me to him.
So Brent, you was for real saved, huh? You was for real saved? You wasn't You wasn't just wearing crosses. You was.
No,
Well,
I would say
we weren't that much for real safe
yeah,
because we did live together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that same uncle used to say, "Well, so you're living in sin," and I used to say, "No, we're living in Easton. That's the town we live in."
So now, Jacquie, tell me.
We had a good foundation that we were trying.
Right.
We were young, but we were trying, but we did live together.
Yeah.
So
Well, and once again, 24 and 20, Ebony Fashion. How long had you been Ebony Fashion Fair model by that point?
that was my second year for 2 years.
But weren't you? What were you doing like freshman, sophomore year in high school? Like when I met you, you were modeling then.
I was modeling locally. Yeah.
Locally.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was modeling just in the Boston, Syracuse, Rochester area. Or I'm sorry, the Buffalo, Syracuse. So I was just doing more local things.
Gotcha. So tell me, what was that world like? Was that a pretty fast-paced world in terms of on the girl side?
It wasn't. I mean, it's actually pretty sheltered, especially compared to when you're modeling with an agency and you're just pretty much on your own. But I felt it was a fantastic experience. I had a great experience because it's just you, and there was 12 of us or 14 of us, I think, including the 2 guys. And you have your seamstresses and you have your managers, and we're on a Greyhound bus, and you literally are just scooped up and taken from town to town to town. And it was amazing. I had the opportunity to go to every state in the country and Alaska and the islands. And, we would do a show every night. We had a show, and Sundays we had 2 shows. We had 1 day off a week. And it was a fantastic experience. I got to meet so many people, and runway is my heart. I still love it. I still do it today. It was so much fun. It's a performance, and it's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like it. Even to this day now, they've retired the show, and it's just so sad because there's just absolutely nothing like it.
My. Okay.
So from a young person's perspective, you felt very safe because you're traveling with this group, and you just basically had to be where they picked you up. You're all staying in the hotel. You load up the bus, and you go into your hotel rooms. You have roommates. So from a modeling experience, you felt very protected. You didn't feel like you could get in, except for getting in the car with strangers. You felt pretty safe.
She skipped over a couple things that she would say. Now we're looking back as parents as opposed to the people. When we were going through that experience, we would say, "Oh, this is safe. This is normal. This is how people meet. This is how people connect."
Right.
Looking back, if my daughter came to me, the first question I'm going to ask my daughter is, "How is your 20-year-old but in a 21 and over club?" That's the first question.
Right.
There you go. There's the first question. Why would you get in a car with somebody you met a half hour ago at a club? That's 2. And then 3, you mean to tell me that after 6 months of knowing each other, you're going to get married? All those things sound absolutely crazy now when we look back at, but it was so normal and natural for us that was just the way it was supposed to be.
But my mom was just floored when I ever came home off the road and tried it, because she had only met Brent on our first date. That was the only time, because that's the only that
I came there for Easter during the Easter break.
Oh, during the Easter break. But that was it. Like, it was just, other than that, I was on the road. So I was seeing him and spending time with him, but she had not really gotten to know him at all. So she thought this was the craziest thing ever. Yeah. She was like, "What do you mean?" And then again, like, just thinking what my life, because I just completely turned on a dime as far as continuing to model and going to school, and all the things that was my plan to do had just completely said, we'll figure it out. That was kind of it,
So now, but did your mom have a good impression of Brent? It was just.
Oh yeah, she really liked him. But again, she also that athlete concern.
Yeah.
And do I really know him? It's how could you possibly know him? You don't, you were on the road. How much time did you really get to spend with him? How do you know him?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to convince her that I know him, and I'm sure. But we were that sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about that. You're 20, 21 years old, and you're convincing your mom, I know this is the right guy.
Exactly.
That's a pretty powerful statement. What made you so sure, Jack?
We just knew. It was the connection was immediate, and our conversation it flowed so easily. And we talked about everything. We shared everything about who we were and our childhoods and our families, and it just didn't seem like anything was off the table.
Right.
We were very honest and open with each other right away, and that takes a lot for you to feel that open and to let your guards down with somebody so quickly.
I think one of the things too, because of the relationship, the way it was initiated, that it was like it's not even like a long distance relationship, because long distance, it was even more, it was different than just being long distance because of her work schedule and limitations from that standpoint is to communicating. So the only time we could really talk was after she finished the show that evening, when she would get back to her room, shower, and it's 11 o'clock. And
we had time differences.
Right. And we would be in time changes.
Mm-hmm.
She finished the show and we're on the phone from 11 till 3 or fall asleep on the phone or and just
or sometimes it might be 3 in the morning.
Exactly. Right. And just having conversations during those time periods, and you really get to know somebody when all you have to do is talk. So there's no FaceTime, there's no, the ability to really communicate had to come through conversation. And I think that was a great foundation for the building of our communication as we moved into marriage. So I think that was huge.
Good deal. So that leads me right into the very next question. What was the most, and I'll start with you, Jacquie, what's the most impactful memory you have from a relationship before marriage? So this could be a good memory, a bad memory. Like, what was your experience relative to relationship before you met Brent?
Relationships with anybody? You mean anybody else other than Brent? Like dating or?
Dating. Like, we've had some people that talk about how I didn't date a whole lot, but I had this couple who made an impact on me. Some people will say.
It's interesting that you say that, because I had this conversation with Brent after you had kind of mentioned that, and we had, looked at it in the questions, and you guys actually played a huge part on my impression of relationships, because knowing that, when I came to Lancaster, I was a freshman and Calvin was a senior, and early on, I had a crush on Calvin, because it was like, 4 Black people in all of Lancaster.
In the entire school of 2,000
the whole entire
kids.
school of Lancaster. So it was like, okay, this is a really nice guy. And very early, I knew right away that he had a girlfriend. It was like everybody talked about the fact that, Calvin has this girlfriend, this mysterious girlfriend. And it was something that watching him, because Calvin, as you know, was so charismatic, quarterback of the football team, extremely popular, and just seeing how his loyalty to you through high school set a huge tone for me, because he kind of took me under his wing like his little sister. And so it was something that I think, because I didn't date a lot, because there wasn't a lot of Black boys in Lancaster. And at that time, white boys weren't asking Black girls out. And I wasn't
6 feet tall, almost 6 feet.
Yeah, and I was tall. And there wasn't, I wasn't, asking anybody out. I just wasn't raised that way. So I just kind of sat back and waited, and there really wasn't a lot of choices in that time.
Yeah.
And there was a few guys, and I dated on and off, and I have not had any bad experiences with relationships, but I didn't have a lot. So for me, just because you were important, you really set the tone for me on how, you know, a gentleman is supposed to act in a relationship, because I saw it and I knew you had opportunity, you know, because people loved you, you know, girls loved you, but you had such a tone of, no, I have somebody very special and I have a girlfriend, and you were just everybody's friend. And watching that, I think, was very, very special. And so I think that really sets something in my head of how a relationship should be. So I thought that was really special, and I think you guys should know that.
Wow.
Thanks for sharing that. That's
Yeah, you know, it's funny because when I tell my story, part of the reason why you knew about Elise so early is because I would do that to hold myself accountable. You know, I was an 18-year-old kid, right? And so one of the things that I would do is I would tell people early. Now, half of Lancaster didn't believe she existed. You know, because she went to city school. I saw her on Sunday at church. They didn't believe she existed until we got to the prom. Like, we went to the prom, and then she's like, she's real. Yeah. It wasn't like we had cell phones and I could show you the picture and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I you know, I was saved, trying to live saved, trying to do right, hormones raging, all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know that I'd ever heard that side of it, but from my side, like, I remember being in the cafeteria senior year, and like 3 or 4 of the girls who graduated with me come running to me. Calvin, you gotta meet somebody. I was like, meet who? Kind of thing. And so they just knew it was going to be this, and so we were able to kind of make that connection from, okay, it ain't but 4 of us up in here, so we gonna jump on the same team here.
Right.
And our conversations with you, and we would talk about being, you know, the black folks in this all white kind of environment kind of thing, and having those conversations. And I just remember kind of looking at you, and I don't know if I ever said this out loud, but I was like, it's going to take a minute for some folks to catch up to you, Jacquie. You know, because like Aliss, you know, same kind of thing. It's when you, what you say, when you get the apple at the top of the tree, whole lot of folk ain't going up there. Whole lot of people ain't climbing up that tree.
True.
And so it's going to take a minute for you to get picked.
Correct.
And so I just kind of knew that about you, kind of thing, just like I knew it about Aliss, kind of deal. And so it's very interesting. I never knew that in terms of, you know, the impact that it had for you. So now I'll also tell you this. Part of my story talks about why I believe love can last forever. Relative to being able to do the work on yourself, where you do represent, you know, what you want to represent. And once again, none of us are perfect. You know, you know, it's not about perfection, but it's about understanding what the purpose of relationship is for and what the purpose of marriage is for. And so I think that's going to minister to a lot of folks. How about you, Brent? What was your experience like?
Prior to or
prior to?
Prior to. I think that the thing that sticks out in my mind about dating, when I first started dating Jacquie, was the immediate comparisons to other people who I dated through college or my first or second year in the league. And just, there was a comfort level that was there with her that I never had before. And then the other thing was there was this lack of drama. As I mentioned, I grew up in Flint, Michigan. So Flint's a different kind of city. So there's different kinds of women there, from the standpoint of not all bad, not all, you know what I'm saying? It's just a different mentality. And then girls I would date, girls I tried to date or dated in college, there was always drama. There was always issues, whether trust issues, whether it is, even if the drama wasn't really there, there was manufactured drama because they were used to being in what we now know as toxic relationships. And that was that drama was kind of what fueled you wanting to be with somebody. So to be in a drama-free relationship almost felt, it was foreign to me because of previous relationships.
Wow.
And so I think that was the thing that stuck out in my mind. Growing up the way I grew up and who I was around and what I was exposed to, was I just really didn't care for all of the drama or all of the issues that came with toxic relationships. And we immediately connected, and there was no drama, there was no issues. That it would surprise me when we wouldn't argue over things and we would actually talk things through. That was weird to me compared to previous relationships.
Wow. So when you met Jacquie, you had been in the league 2-3 years at that point?
It was my third year.
Yeah, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
One of the things that I think that stuck out for me was the time on the road. I mean, you live in Boston. As a New England Patriot, we were this before the dark years hit, when we started losing every 6 days. But early in my career, we were very successful. People were coming at you from all different angles. And one of the things that was really cool was when I went on the road with Jacquie, and one of the things that stuck out in my mind, when the spotlight was on her and it wasn't about me. And I really thought that was cool. I thought that was, I thought it was special. When we would go to like the receptions after the event, nobody knew who I was. Where in my real, my normal world, people would flock to me, and then she would be, quote unquote, not in a negative sense, like the ornament, where I became the ornament. It was about her, and people would talk about, who she was and what she did and how great she was in the show. And I thought it was cool to just kind of be in the background and be in a supportive role as opposed to being kind of the centerpiece. So that was one of the things that kind of stuck out, during that time when we were traveling on the road.
Look here, bro. We gonna have to get DNA tests. We gonna have to find out for sure. Because what I just heard you describe is really what the purpose of marriage is.
Yeah.
In terms of understanding the value of putting your partner first.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I didn't play on no New England Patriots or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. But my little experience at Lancaster, mm-hmm. I was voted most congenial. Now I'm embarrassed to say that in high school I did not know what that word meant. So I think I had one. It was two of them. I think it was it might have been talkative. I think it was talkative and congenial, right? Mm-hmm. So they said, you have to pick, Calvin, you can't have both of them. I said, well, tell me what congenial means. And they told me, and I said, yeah, give me that one. I don't want to be known as a talkative person. I don't think I got that kind of thing. But having had that kind of experience on that small level kind of thing, I've always want to at least to feel like she's the star in the room, kind of thing. And Well, you got anything to say to that? No?
No, not for no, dear, I don't.
Yeah, Brett, that's code for I know I'm a star. No, I'm
No.
teasing. I'm teasing.
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that though too, because when you say that's what marriage is about, because then when I moved here, then the roles quickly flipped again, and he was Brent Williams with the Patriots. Excuse me. And I then was in the background, and I didn't because after that I was here. I decided not to, we decided, because he encouraged me to continue modeling, in New York and such. And we decided that I was going to stay here because that we quickly started having kids, and I just decided that it was, this was my season to just be home with the kids. And because with his schedule, it was really tough. He was traveling, he's playing. You can't call in sick. It's not, excuse me. Mm-hmm. It's not something that, he can take a day or here or there, So my world became just to fill in the blanks of when he couldn't be available. Mm-hmm. And those roles were reversed. So you're absolutely right. That is part of the sacrifice of marriage. You have seasons and times where, one is thriving and doing their thing, and you become that supportive person for them. And then there's the seasons get flipped, and it just continues, throughout your marriage. And so we found that pretty quickly, we had to adjust and change, and, just depending on what our timing is. So I think that's so accurate when you say that, that's what marriage is about.
So now, Jacquie, but how did you feel? Was that a tough time for you? Was it an easy transition?
It was tough only because I felt I had to find my identity again. Yeah. Like I had to figure out who I was, and I found myself to just be Brent Williams' wife. And that was kind of tough, for me. And I wasn't making the money that I was making before. He was making way more. So I remember there was this transition of, I didn't want to buy his presence with his money. I really struggled with, let's bring this all together, and this is both of ours. Yeah. And I really struggled with that transition, and he really, he never ever made me feel that was the case. That was something that I had to work through. Mm-hmm. So it was hard. It was, it was a time of, because like you said, Calvin, I've been modeling since I was, in
as
high
long
school.
as I've known you, when I was introduced to you, you were a model, and I don't know. I thought you were Ebony Fashion Affair model in high school. I didn't know.
Yeah, no. I just had worked locally, but I was, doing pretty well with it locally, and then, started with Ebony. So that was kind of my world, and I did find my nook here and I did get an agent here and started working here and everything, but I was still, Brent Williams' wife. I was still very much under that umbrella. So that took some time for me to find my way and find confidence in that.
Brett, did you guys did you have a kind of relationship that when you were having those kind of struggles, you were able to have those discussions, or were you kind of working that out within yourself?
Yeah, that was probably one of the first challenges that we faced as a couple, was just the idea, and as a player, you are so used to,
as a football player, that
kind of player.
Listen, I don't want nobody clipping this and editing it. No, I got your back, bro.
As a player, that's a different one. As a player, there we go. So as a player, you're so used to your world. Everything caters to you to make sure that you can do your job. You walk in the locker room, your clothes are clean, your uniform, your meeting time, everything is scheduled, ordered, and structured that way. And so sometimes as a player, you kind of lose sight of those things around you from a support standpoint and what your wife's role is, and in managing the house and everything that entails that you're really not a part of, because there's like a time in the season where I literally I like mentally check out of what's going on here.
Yeah.
And so that was like another struggle. But the first struggle was making sure that she had confidence in knowing who she was, but also wanting her not to just just fall into, well, I'm quote unquote just Brent Williams' wife. That's not, that as many people as aspire to that goal, to be in that role, not really. But
no, really. If
no,
you're a
not
professional
really,
football player,
the
I can
idea
guarantee
is-
you, those drama girls that you was talking about,
exactly.
they couldn't wait to get and be, I want to be
Correct.
on player's wife's role. Yeah.
Right. But what made her different was she wasn't caught up in all of the other stuff around being an NFL player's wife.
Yeah, because you was just a regular cracker, man. She had been all around the world. And Ebony,
Right.
I'm talking for you,
Exactly.
Jacquie.
So that being said, I think one of the things that we struggled, I mean, not necessarily struggled, but one of the things that wanted to get her early was having confidence in who she was here. And I think when she connected with an agent here in Boston and she started to work, I think that kind of reinforced that that modeling identity that she had. I think from there, we started having kids. We had our first. And I think the thing that, always amazed me with her was her ability to, once she got kind of secure in her role, because there was points when people would say, well, what do you do? Or where did you go to school? Or things like that. And she would shy away from the answer or back away from the answer. And then, because I was encouraging her to finish school and to go back to school. And I think, was it the second or third Christmas? Second or third Christmas, I enrolled her in college. I got her transcript from Lancaster. I put all this stuff together.
But let me just give us a little background on that. Because this was so special, because up to that point, I'm trying to remember how far into our marriage we were at that point.
We had 2 kids.
We had 2 kids at this point. And it was something that I had been struggling with. I want to go back to school, but I felt overwhelmed with just being, because Brent is playing and I have these 2 young kids and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And I kind of had been back and forth and knowing that it was something that I wanted to do, but didn't have a lot of confidence in. And this kind of goes to what you say about that hardened heart, or something what is it that Brent did for me that was something that softened my heart. Yeah. I didn't have a hardened heart.
No.
There was something, I didn't have a lot of confidence in who I was from an intelligence standpoint, because for so long it all was about my outside. And so the emphasis was about what I looked like more than what I could do academically. And so I didn't have a lot of confidence in that. And Brent would always encourage me and lift me up, really give me confidence on the fact that, you're intelligent. There's more to you than just, the modeling side.
Smart, you was kind, and you was important, right?
Yes, that's what he was. He was definitely trying to emphasize that to me on a daily basis. And there was part of me that was scared. I was scared, of going to school and not being successful, and or maybe not doing as well as I thought, or being able to balance it all and being able to, be a wife and be a good mom and handle school. So one Christmas, we are opening up presents, and he hands me this folder, and I open up the folder, and it's all my transcripts, because I had started to do some classes early on when I first moved here, and then I got pregnant, and it was just like everything kind of took the back seat. Mm-hmm. So he had got all my transcripts and enrolled me in a school that's right here in our town. It's a smaller Catholic school, mm-hmm. and enrolled me in the school there for 3 classes. He picked my classes and everything. He knew what I wanted to study, picked my classes. And at first I looked at him like, what kind of Christmas present is this?
Give me homework. What is you doing, man? What a Tiffany's box now,
This would be a good idea. Like, this is not a good Christmas present. But after I absorbed it, I was just like, wow, this is really special. This is because he knew how badly I really wanted to do it, but just was scared. So he gave me the push that I needed. He laid everything out for me. I had no excuse. All I needed to do was go in and meet with my advisor. And my advisor was just like, I have never in my years experienced this. She thought it was the sweetest thing that a husband would do. And I said, I know. And I'm trying not to. Because I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, school for Christmas present, really? But yeah, it was, when you talk about somebody who, he gave me something that I didn't even realize that I didn't have. And it opened me up to then have a different kind of confidence and realize, okay, this is something that I can do. And I plugged away and did, 3 classes this semester, and kept plugging away, and just something that was manageable. And we're traveling back and forth, and I come back to the point where I was going to school with some of my Brennan's friends. Like I would see them in school, and they would be like, "Hi, Mrs. Williams," and I'd be like, "Oh, hi,"
But now I don't want you guys to lose sight of this. He just got finished saying that as a professional football player, I zone out because it's all about me. Mm-hmm. But this whole time he's talking about how he is paying attention to you. I want you to really hear that, and Brent, you need to understand that you are a unicorn. Because a regular old average man with a 9-to-5 job wouldn't do what you did.
I agree.
And for you to be in the kind of environment where everything is taken care of for you because you the man, mm-hmm. and you know how you got to focus in that area, but at the same time of focusing in that area, your heart is still. So now, I'm going to read Ephesians 25 through 27. This is right after it talks about submission. It says, husband, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing, the water of the word through the word, and presenting her to himself as a radiant church without stain, wrinkle, or blemish, but holy and blameless. So when you talk about you didn't have a hardened heart, you're right. But the way he submitted to Jacquie, not a husband to his wife, but the way Brent submitted to Jacquie, he said, uh-oh, I see a wrinkle. I'm going to work on that one. Oh, you got this blemish. You don't think you what? Oh, I'm going to show you what you are. And so that is submission, because so often I get so frustrated when people try to make submission about gender roles. Mm-hmm. It's never been about gender roles. Mm-hmm. And so now, the same way he's locked into your heart, right? You understand what he needs because of the demands on his job, and you locked in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That is going to minister
That-
to some
yeah,
people.
that's beyond that's beyond good.
That
Y'all,
sounds like, oh yes.
you know, you just said because you in it and it was just normal and natural for you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand that people are going to hear that, and that's going to sound like a miracle.
Mm.
Like the way I care for Elise, it's normal for me. You couldn't stop me from doing that if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But like you just got finished sharing, what was normal for me, in some ways, looked like a miracle to you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It changed your paradigm. The same thing is going to happen. The same thing is going to happen as people hear that story. Elise is sitting over here. She's going, Calvin. I'm going, yeah, I know. This is gold. this is good stuff.
Well, the other
Go
thing
ahead.
that I think is important for your listeners and people to understand is when you make those sacrifices for your spouse, like, you know, Brent doing things like that for me and making me feel so loved and supported and comforted and safe, helps me to then reciprocate, you know. So when in his need of time, like, you know, people laugh because when I was especially pregnant with my second child, he was due during the season. He was due during football season. And I didn't know whether he was gonna, he might not have been able to be there for the birth.
Right.
But I ended up we specifically got induced on his one day off. And I got, you know, I came home from the hospital in 24 hours because I didn't have anything else. You know, I didn't have anybody. I didn't have family around yet. My mom wasn't here yet. And because he was leaving, he was going out of town.
Yeah.
We got to play the Steelers that weekend. It was a big game.
Yeah.
Did you win? Did you win?
Yeah, I think we beat the Steelers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but there was no, like, and for that time, I slept in the guest bedroom, you know, because I know he needed to sleep. He needed to get rest. He had to be at practice the next morning. And so often I hear women that get so resentful in those times. But I never felt resentful because I felt like this is what he has to do. You know, it just was, you know, bad timing that I happened to get pregnant. All the other two are in February, so we were past football season. We learned our lesson,
Right.
but it was something that I never felt resentful. It was just, that's what I have to do because I want him to be the best version of himself that he can be. And if that's what it takes, I'm gonna, you know, do what I can because I know he would do it for me. And I had know that with the utmost confidence. You know, it's a back and forth that has
So then let me ask you this. Would you would you say that your sacrifices were suffering? Did it feel like, and I think, and the reason why I asked that question is because I believe that submission is the greatest gift that God gives us.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think that sacrifice is equivalent with suffering, well, who wants to suffer?
Exactly.
Right.
But like you just said, Jacquie, if I am sacrificing because I feel safe, comfortable, and I see you reciprocating, well, listen, we ain't sacrificing. Now we on the same team, and we trying to win the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So you don't feel like it's suffering. You feel joy in doing it because you know that you're helping them become the best person that they can be. So it comes out of more joy than sacrifice.
Yeah.
One of the things that when we counsel couples and we're going through, just like little children can't see beyond, the next 5 minutes or the next hour, that seems like forever for them. if something is, I can't watch this or I can't do this for an hour. That seems like forever. With young couples, you go through, and I think as you look back in your over our marriage, there's different seasons when one of us has had to be more submissive than the other during a season. Well, in a lot of young couples' lives, they can't see past that one season because they think this is how it's going to be forever. Just like that child sitting in timeout thinks that it's going to be forever, that I'm sitting here for these 5 minutes or whatever it takes for me to get but it's really not. When you look back over the history of our relationship, that was like a blip in the road. I mean, yeah, it seemed really hard then, and it seemed like it was never ending, but over 32 years, that was 4 months. During the season. And it wasn't even 4 months. It was really the end of the season, December, all the way to January. And then I can help again. But during that time period, I'm sure, and I viewed it as I appreciated it because I knew that I had teammates that had wives that there's no way in the world that they would have done that, one, or they would have hired so much staff that it would have been like, ridiculous. You wouldn't be at home. It would be like you're in a hotel with all this help around. So I think that's the thing that, just looking back over the years of our marriage, is there have been seasons when one of us has been, had to champion the other, or be more supportive or uphold the other. And most of the time, to be honest, it's her upholding me. And so I think that from a husband standpoint is when I have the opportunities to do that, then I have to step up to do that. So I just look at it that way.
On the day you were married, what did you think about marriage? What did you understand or think the purpose for marriage was on the day you got married? While you guys are thinking, let me tell you what I was thinking about on my wedding day. What time we was getting on the plane to go to Cancun. I was ready. She messed around and showed me the swimsuit she got for Cancun. I said, "Oh, I do. Can we go?"
Right.
So that was really where I was on my way. I know the Bible say, it's a representation, but I wasn't thinking. What was y'all thinking on wedding day?
My goodness.
Well, this is a tough one because I think it wasn't what we had originally planned.
Right.
So,
what do we think? I don't know that I had like a specific thought on our wedding day. But I do know, I remember waking up the next morning saying, I'm married. And it was, obviously foreign. I'd only been married for 24 hours, but that was different. And having not had models of great marriage in my life to really say, oh, this is how it's supposed to be done. Or, those kind of things. I think that there was a fear or concern that I wasn't equipped to do this right because I didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I didn't have a whole lot of folks to go to say, how are we going to do this? So.
Yeah, and I think for me, my parents were. My parents did not have a great marriage at all. They didn't communicate well. My dad was an alcoholic. But one thing that I knew was they were in it forever. And what I did get from them is no matter how difficult the struggles were, they were committed to each other. They never cheated. They never went outside their marriage. My dad was always home. They had each other's back regardless of, what was going on behind closed doors.
Sure.
And so for me, I knew that it was like, if I'm getting married, this is it. Like, this is, I knew that once I got married, that was it for me. Like there was no plan B, there was no backup plan, there was no, it was a
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I knew what I was getting into,
Mm-hmm.
and we were just ready for it. Because we eloped because we were pregnant. We were pregnant with our first son, with our child. So we had gotten engaged. Everything happened so quickly. We were living together, and oops, ended up pregnant as we were planning the wedding.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, okay, well, we'll just elope, and then we'll have the wedding later.
Yeah.
And so we eloped, and so it was just the two of us, and it didn't even seem like it was like, okay, we're getting married, but it was just like, it was so, this is what we had planned, and it wasn't a big deal, and we weren't really into the ceremonial part so much so that we didn't end up having a wedding later, like we had thought. And we kept saying, well, we'll have one in 5 years, and then we'll have it in 10 years, and then we'll have it in 20 years. And we've never had one because we just didn't feel it was necessary. We felt we had made that commitment, and that's what mattered.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't feel the need to have a wedding. And so here we are all these years later, or actual ceremony.
Yes,
Yeah, we did get married. I know, we did get married.
But the truth of the matter is Elise and I included, I just knew I wanted to be with her.
Right.
I just knew that I loved her, even though I couldn't completely define what love was.
Right.
And I think, like I shared with you guys before, it wasn't until my 30th where I had to start having conversations with people, explaining to people, man, how are y'all here 30 years later and y'all still like each other?
Mm-hmm.
How are y'all here 30 years later and y'all still want to be together?
Right.
And I found myself telling these stories, and I started to realize, man, we've been walking in the Word, but we haven't defined it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't, it's like we went out and played the game, Brent, but nobody ever sat down with the game plan. Mm-hmm. We just, you do it down and out, and and so imagine if couples really understood the game plan. Mm-hmm. Like one of the things I get upset about today's athlete is they're more concerned about the highlight reel than winning.
Yep.
And so you'll get a player who is losing the game, yep. And so the team goes into a prevent defense, and so you get an extra 150 yards in the fourth quarter, but you still lost, mm-hmm. And you excited because you got extra 150 yards.
Right.
When we was growing up, you was what kind of game is you playing?
Right. Absolutely.
Somebody talk about I done scored such and such point, and we winning. I'm saying, look at the scoreboard. You want to shoot again? I don't care. But I think the same thing in marriage. I think many of us, couples like us, we were operating in biblical principles, but nobody helped us to find it. Yeah, we were submitting to each other because we loved and cared for each other, but nobody ever really articulated it. Like that Christmas morning, you never thought, man, Brent did a great job submitting to me. Right? But when I read the scriptures and I read what's supposed to happen, oh, that's what it looks like.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's not getting my dinner. It's not taking the garbage out. It's right. And so the reason why I asked that question, what was it like on your wedding day? Because many of us had that same thought process. Mm-hmm. We got married because we knew we loved each other and we were ready to go. Right. Kind of thing. And here lately, as I have had to counsel folks and do marriage stuff, like I've had to have a conversation about, this is forever. Because people are now starting to enter into it, talking about, well, I hope it lasts for 5 years. I hope it lasts for 10 years. And I'm going, hold time out. We need to rewind here. You mm-hmm. need a new game plan. We ain't playing prevent defense here. Right. And so my prayer and my hope is that we can get a unified understanding of what this purpose of marriage is in terms of heal. And this is the thing I love about the scriptures. The scripture talks about what a man is supposed to do to his wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the example of Christ, what Christ does to his church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as the man, I'm the bride and the groom,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm the groom to my wife, but I'm the bride to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So now when we understand that, now you can start washing me too.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, because there is the things that God does to us, right? Quite frankly, when we fell in love, it happened to me. I saw her, she's the one, right? But then there's what God does through you, right? In terms of removing wrinkles, stains, and blemishes. And so he had to live out the word for the example. So I don't need to know the word to be the living word to Elise. Because I know how to be patient. I know how to be kind. Love is patient. Love bears all things, believes all things, and love never fails. Right? So I can live the word without actually knowing. That's why there's a people who aren't quote unquote professing salvation, but they have successful marriages because they still operate in those principles. Kind of thing. And conversely, you got people who can go to heaven, get saved, and don't operate in those principles at all, and got 3 or 4 or 5 different marriages. And so my prayer is that we can have a uniformed, united understanding of what the purpose of marriage is. And what I love about it is every couple has come from a different street. And I think that's the thing that's going to be such a blessing is because somebody's going to be able to identify with the road you came down. So somebody's going to be able to identify with it. But then if they can understand, wait, let me give you this playbook. Here's the game plan. Right? Well, okay, well, I've been doing that all right. Oh, I got to fix that. And so now we're not walking around like love is something that happens to us, but it's something that we can be a participant in, kind of thing. The fifth question, I don't even know. I ain't gonna ask you. Do you believe you've been caring for each other's heart? y'all been
doing all right.
Yeah.
There you go. I love it. You identified your family systems and how when you got married, you didn't just marry each other, but you married each other's family. I think you guys talked about how when you tell people that are getting married, you tell them, like your kids, you said your kids, y'all go get some counsel. Y'all go, and we can't counsel you. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is really evident in being married, I think we talked about this pre-interview, was about This Is Us, the TV show, and how there are characteristics that from Jacquie being raised or her experiences, one prime experience that we shared earlier was the fact that everything that she had done for a certain period of her life was based on how she looked.
Yeah.
So that fed that confidence in how I looked and how I present myself physically, but intellectually, she didn't have the same confidence.
Yeah.
Well, that's what she brought to the table that I recognized, man, she's really smart and she doesn't get this. She's not seeing her wisdom in decisions or things that she does. She just thinks, well, I'm just incredibly organized and I'm structured and that's how I operate. But it takes intelligence and wisdom to structure a whole family and our lives and everything that goes with it.
Yes.
So, but that was This Is Us moment with her, but trying to get her confidence there. But so she brings that to the table. There are issues, surprisingly, that I have. People are shocked.
No.
I mean, I tell folks all the time. I was just like, I wasn't the only child. I was the only grandson. So it's like I'm chosen. I mean, It's
Dude,
like
so you was
chosen.
chosen in your family and you made to the NFL?
My gosh. And then, it's just like our whole family is just like, well, Brent said, or, I'm the only child and I'm the only grandson. And so along with that comes some issues. I never thought it was a big deal to drink all the orange juice because I never had to share it with a sibling.
Right.
I never thought it was a big deal to eat all the cereal or
except for like 5 flakes in the bottom of the box or something.
Well, he saved you some.
It was a tie. That was my cereal offering.
Yeah, and then put it back in the cabinet.
So it takes time to work through those things. We talk about it all the time where, when we first got married, she used to leave this. If I turned the camera around, you would see our trash compactor. She would leave the trash compactor open so I would pass by it on my way out the door, thinking that if I see the trash needs to go out, I would take the trash out. I walk past that trash every day. I thought it was a reminder for her when she saw it, when she got it. I never equated that was what she wanted me to do. But as we learned,
and in the meantime, I'm getting more and more angry every day. Every day that he passes by that trash.
And finally, she took the trash out and she would set it on the top of the trash compactor. Still walk by it. Finally, she put it by the door. Go out the other door. She must be reminding herself, because if she wanted me to do it,
she would ask.
She would just ask. And so having that conversation and sharing that with couples and realizing that, you know what, I say it all the time. Me as a man, most men, we're not really that bright. We might be smart, but there's things around the house that we just don't see, we don't recognize. But I'm coachable. And if you tell me, you know what, when I leave that trash out, if you could take that out, that would make my day. That would be great. Oh my goodness. Take that trash out every time I see it.
Now.
It's no issue.
Yeah.
But in her mind, she's communicating to me without words.
Yeah.
And not very effective. So,
I think going back to, what you talk about the hardening of the heart, I think that is where it begins in a marriage. Because when you're not communicating with each other and that frustration starts building up, then that's where the heart gets hardened, because it just builds on top of each other. And by the time you do deal with it, sometimes it can be too late. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of that hardening happens, because then it becomes not about consideration and all those other pieces, because then I'm out of frustration because he's not doing what I think he should be doing. Instead of communicating with him, I start being in my own head about, well, if he's not going to do this for me, then I'm not going to do this for him. Yeah. And it becomes a tit for tat rather than working together. And so once that communication really starts breaking down, then I think that's where the hardening really starts to begin. No matter what the subject is, the hard stuff, you got to have those conversations no matter what, so you can make sure you're on the same page and you're filling each other up. So my needs are being met as well as his needs are being met. Because anytime that scale gets tipped one way or the other and there's not that balance, then I feel like that's where the hardening starts to begin. That's the first phases.
Well, I agree with you 100%. But you guys just gave me an epiphany, though. We just got finished talking about all the different ways you guys were caring for each other's heart. Right? When we went into what the enemy tries to define as our roles, right? That's creating a whole bunch of conflict. And ain't none of that in the Bible.
Right.
Right? And so just as simple, and I mean, for us, we say it's simple, just simply being able to say, hey, babe, can you take the garbage out? And we're done, right? But because of the way the enemy does, he's supposed to know he's supposed to submit like that.
Right, exactly.
Well, okay, well, wait. If I open up this door, it'll remind him. That did the work. But if I
Exactly.
put the garbage on top of it'll remind them. That didn't work.
Right.
I put it at the front door, right? But
Right.
what's been happening the whole time is ain't none of that in the word.
Right.
And
Yep.
all it took was, hey, Brent, take the garbage out.
Right.
Oh, I thought,
Exactly.
oh, yeah, sure.
And again, that is that this is us moment.
Mhm.
Like you said, those roles that I think he's supposed to be responsible for and roles that he thinks I'm supposed to be responsible for aren't always the same.
Right.
Because and we expect that out
Right.
of our other,
Right.
person. So it's exactly right. Those roles that nobody has defined except for ourselves.
And then the piece is but I think the thing that I also want to show or want to highlight is that y'all got caring for each other's heart.
Mhm.
Like you like Brent knows you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know Brent,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so he might not take out the garbage, but he'll do something that will communicate that he knows your heart.
Right.
And that garbage could be stinking for the next month now.
Right.
Well, maybe not a month. But once again, I think
You pick
think
your
that
battle.
there you go.
Mhm.
But I think the deal is imagine if we knew that the day we got married. Imagine if we knew that our purpose and intent was to care for each other's heart, to remove stains, wrinkles, and blemishes. Right? Well, once again, I don't have to ask the last question because y'all didn't answer that one throughout the whole thing. But I just put it out there. So if you guys want to add anything, do you have a healing memory from your marriage to this point? And Jackie, you've already shared one.
Mm-hmm.
Brent,
Mhm.
can you think of a time where Jackie smoothed out a wrinkle or healed a wounded place?
When I saw that question, I was trying to identify one moment, and there's not one specific time.
Boy, I'm gonna jump through this screen. Go. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So there's like um, there's I'll give you like a few examples. So I played here in New England for 8 years, and now I'm a free agent, and we're trying to figure out where we're going to go. And I wanted, um, I visited, I don't know, 6, 8 teams during the first free agency period that I had experienced. And the team that I had decided to sign with was the Washington Redskins at the time. Now they're the Washington Commanders. So I want to correct, I want to be politically correct on
I'm
that.
with
But
you.
it was Washington. And so I am in the office about to sign, and they're telling me one thing, but I'm hearing conversations in the office next to me that lead me to believe that they're not being honest with me.
Mm.
Now, part of the reason I wanted to sign with Washington was because the team that I really wanted to sign with was the Seattle Seahawks. But that's like taking Jackie and our kids to the other side of the world. All of our family is East Coast. And I remember being in the office and calling my agent and him putting Jackie on three-way and having this conversation about me not trusting the organization there. But I really felt that I should sign there. And there was her voice saying, wherever you feel best, we'll be fine.
My.
And that was a moment in which I felt like she'll go anywhere I need her to go. She'll go wherever I go. She's with me on this. And even I could have played for Washington, and it might have worked out great. But I knew that the situation for me playing wise was best in Seattle. But I was making the decision what I thought was best and most comfortable for her because it wasn't as far away.
Yeah.
And to hear her say, wherever you want to go,
Yeah.
we'll be fine. We'll get this. that was one. Another time is when my last year with the Jets, my last year in the league was with the Jets. I got injured, and I'm driving home from the stadium after the facility after they had released me. And I said, well, they released me, so I'm not really sure what to do. And she said, let's pack up and go home. And it was just the calmness of we're moving back home that just changed my focus about the end of my career. It was no longer this mope or this. I mean, it was hard. It was hard.
Transition,
But her ability to just say, let's pack up, let's go home. And before I got home, boxes were out. We were getting ready to move back home. I think we left the next morning.
Yeah,
we couldn't wait to get out of New York.
Yeah.
We couldn't wait. So we were home, and then transitioning into professional life. So these are examples that I give, like those two, transitioning into my professional life as an investment advisor, continuing that, starting this camp series. I think the thing, when you say, well, what has she done? It's like at every moment, she's given me the confidence to do whatever I wanted to do and support me in that and say, I trust you. And that gives you the confidence to do things that you might not believe that you can, but because she believes I can, then I can.
Can I give you one more third eye and then I'll let you guys go?
Go.
Sure.
Jacquie, you expressed it how you felt like you were valued because what was on the outside, and Brent ministered to your inside.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, you lived your career by what you could do on your outside, and when that failed or was no longer done, Jacquie affirmed for you that I care about what's on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So if we got to switch it up, we switch it up.
Mm-hmm.
But we doing this thing together.
Absolutely. And I think to add to that, the reason why I can do that is because I believed in him. I believe in anything he sets his mind on that he wants to do.
Yeah.
He'll do it. And yeah. I believe in him. I believe he can do it. So when he shares with me his heart, I'm like, let's go, let's do it. I'm with you.
Look, you hear that? Did you hear that little boyish giggle he had? It still ministers. It ministered to me when she said it to you.
Absolutely.
So listen, you said you'll do whatever you set your mind to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Brent, you got to set your mind to. We got to get together and do this in person somehow, somewhere, somewhere. Listen, I got to meet.
That would be awesome.
I got to meet my cousin. This that don't make no sense, man. Thank you guys so much for doing this. You guys blessed me tonight. I don't know how y'all felt, but y'all blessed me.
Blessing, yeah, it was a blessing to be with you guys, and you guys. I mean, you made us think.
Yeah.
You made us put some work in, and which is, really good to do after 30-something years.
Yeah.
It's really good to be able to reflect and be reminded because, life goes on and you get busy and life gets crazy and you're, going in two different directions and you're going 50 miles an hour and you just, it's nice to be reminded about these things about why you love each other, and why, this relationship is special and why you feel the way you feel, because quite often after 30 years, sometimes you just take for granted, that you're there with each other. So to be reminded of this. So thank you guys for, making us think about it a little bit more again.
I just want to say thank you for being transparent and for taking this serious, because this is truly going to minister to somebody. So
it's something that we've been passionate about. We've been a part of the marriage couple ministry at our church for years. And we believe in marriage. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And the thing, one of the things that you talked about, what is the purpose of marriage? And it makes you think. And one of the things that came to mind to me was because I didn't have the model of marriage that
Neither.
helped, that would have helped us get off to a faster start. For my kids, for the people we know, we want them to get off to a faster start and have a better foundation than we had. And I mean, I look at our kids. Our oldest is the only one that's married. We want them to have a great marriage. Yeah. So, you know, we're, you know, constantly kind of coaching and wanting them to share and make sure that their communication is well. Same with our daughter. We identify things and say, well, we got to make sure that that's smoothed out, you know, because we want her to have a great marriage. And then our son, our middle son, the same thing with them. And I think that that's something that we're passionate about, is great marriages. And I appreciate the fact that, you know, you guys took the time out, that God has put it on your heart to help married couples. You know, we used to say all the time when our kids left, well, we're gonna find out if we like each other now, because there was no buffers. There's nothing between us. It's just us now. The kids are gone. And then COVID hit, and we can't go outside. We're gonna find out if we like each other a whole lot now. And I know that there's a lot of couples that came out of COVID that really are struggling right now. So, you know, our thoughts and prayers are with those families, and recognizing that season hopefully will be over soon, but that the relationship was meant to last and to get something out of whatever God has taken them through. So,
but I think your question of really understanding what marriage is about early on and makes people think about that, I think will minister to couples over and over and over, because I think those are the things that's your foundation going into it. And I think we had talked about a little bit in our pre-interview when we had talked before, the importance of recognizing who you are when you're going into that relationship, what you're bringing in from, you know, previous relationships, your family, and being hurt by those things, but not being so sensitive that you can't be honest with your spouse on who your family is or what you've been hurt by. Because if you go into it with a misconception, or that you have it all together, or not being vulnerable with each other, then that's when those things get you can't have that conversation then you can't communicate it, and you can't like you've been saying, Calvin, smooth over those wrinkles and clean up those things, because if you're not honest, then how are you going to deal with it? And so understanding what you're going into from the very, very beginning, so you all having these conversations with couples and understanding the importance of that, what marriage is and what it means to you, and that hardened heart is so because And I just think that this is just, you know, we just are going to be praying for you guys to just this, because it's powerful. It's so needed, and it's powerful.
Man, that whole fake it till you make it is like 10.0.
Right.
And so you don't know what you're getting, kind of thing.
Right.
And so getting people past trying to project images and get to the real substance of who they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
You understand that marriage is the place that will heal you and set you free from that stuff.
Absolutely.
It's you know, I used to it was so, people say, you know, the ball and chain. The freest day of my life was my wedding day. The freest day of my life was my wedding day.
Yeah.
And so once again, y'all think I'm kidding, but I ain't kidding. We're gonna get on your calendar, and we're gonna go to Cabo, and we're gonna take some folk with us, and we're gonna help some folks.
Yeah, we're in.
Jacquie will go anywhere where there's water.
There you go. So yeah, we'll look at it, we'll set up. But man, let's go watch the second half of this game, and I'll follow up with you guys next week, see how everything's going.
All right.
Okay, sounds
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
all.
again. All righty.
Bye now.
Bye now. Tell me I still love you though. I still love you.
Still love you. But love really can last forever.
That's good.
Thanks for watching How Love Can Last Forever After All podcast. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and make comments. New episodes come out every other Friday. Thanks so much. See you soon.